I'm Dennis Littky, one of the co-founders with Elliot Washer, who's with us today. And this was supposed to be done. I don't know if any of you guys have been at a Big Bang, but I've turned my cabin in the woods in New Hampshire into a retreat center for big picture people, for Met people, for College Unbound people. We had the first retreat with Carlos and Andrew and Elliot and I wanted to do it from up there, but they didn't trust that there's no electricity or anything up there. So I had slides so you could see it, but you're gonna have to imagine it, or maybe Carla can come up with it. So let me tell you what we're doing today. I lost you guys. So there are a couple goals. One, to understand how College Unbound was incubated out of Big Picture. Two, we're gonna start saying, would you like to teach at College Unbound? Because we have a lot of courses online, and we have our provost, Adam Bush, here to talk about that. And then the other thing is, we're getting ready to expand College Unbound to other cities, especially where there are big picture schools. So I'm gonna talk a little, then Scott will talk with the student, and then we'll get some time to see if any of you are interested. So the history, when Elliot and I started Big Picture, it's a particular philosophy. And it's a philosophy one student at a time, real work, student driven. We talk about relationships, relevance, and rigor. And it doesn't matter if that's a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 35-year-old. That still works. And the fact that it's student driven says you look and understand who that student is, what he or she needs, and then you rock and roll. So, and the goals are the same. The goals are problem solving, creativity, collaboration, advocacy. They're all the same. And we've seen 5-year-olds do exhibitions, and I've seen a 70-year-old do an exhibition. So not only are the goals the same, but we take the concept advisory, we have that in the college. We call it a cohort. We take the concept of an advisor, and we call lab faculty to make us sound like a little more sophisticated. And exhibitions we have. And it's the exact same. They're standing up in front of their colleagues and they're talking about their project. And I always wear at exhibitions my shirt that says, we're really interested in your passion, your growth, and no bull. I've read everything you've read, so let's really see that. So that's kind of who we are. And the cool part is we have on today a teacher at the Met who has been teaching 17, 18, maybe even more years. And one of his students who graduated in '07 and has a nice story until she finally came back to College Unbound. And not only is she Scott's student, but many of you know Sun. She was in Sun's advisory, and then we demoted him to principal, and Scott took over. So they can both beat her up a little. So Scott, introduce yourself and tell people what's up.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Weber, and I have been an advisor at the Met Center in Providence for, Doc was a little lowballing me. I just finished my 22nd year. I was hired part of the 3rd graduating class, and you guys know Dennis and Elliot as the directors of Big Picture. I also remember them when they were principals in the schools. Elliot was the first principal I ever worked for directly. And so then for the past year, I've also been a lab faculty at College Unbound. Being an advisor in Providence, we have monthly PD days, and Dennis always comes and gives some words of wisdom at the beginning of those PD days. And I really look forward to those. They help to put our work in the context of greater educational movements, helps to inspire us to know that our struggles are the same struggles that everyone's having, but we're doing it the right way. And he's been talking more and more recently about College Unbound. and what that means. And I just got inspired to want to get involved because I would listen to him and I would think about students that I thought needed that opportunity. So for the last year, I joined on and I've been part of College Unbound too. I'm a lab faculty at College Unbound, and the lab faculty role is very similar to the advisor role. We have a cohort that meets once a week for 3 hours. That was our in-person class until coronavirus forced it to become virtual. But that was our sort of feet on the ground, meeting people in person every week. And it's just like an advisory. That's where you build a positive and a supportive culture with everybody within the group. I did a lot of protocoled conversations where we would have a student that we would highlight each week who would talk about some issue with their project, and everybody would brainstorm around that project and bring their extended resources to bear to help that student with that project. I also do weekly student one-on-one meetings, just like you would do with your advisory. You'd run advisory and then you'd have follow-up one-on-one meetings with your student. Every student has a specific weekly time that we check in. And during those times, we develop a weekly personalized learning plan. So we think about where the student is in their project and what work needs to happen that week in order to be ready to continue moving the project forward. That was usually combined depending on the student preference and their schedule. About half of them were virtual, either a phone call or a Zoom meeting, and half of them we met in person until, again, coronavirus changed that and they all went virtual. During those meetings, just like an advisor, that's where you're supporting students in developing their projects, where you're taking time to find out about their extended learning network and communicating with mentors, and also helping to connect them with resources for their projects. I also support students in their other coursework. College Unbound has for its major, which is called Organizational Leadership and Change, certain required classes that are taught from instructional faculty. So instructional faculty take a class, teach it online or teach it in person, and those classes connect towards their major. But there are also elective classes. And also students do need to have their gen ed requirements done. So any student that hasn't brought those in with them as a transfer credit are trying to take those classes online, and I'm supporting them with that as well too. And so we support students in understanding and completing assignments for those classes, just the same way that we coach our high school students through taking a college class when they have that opportunity. So it's like, you know, when you're taking that class, I'm taking it too, and we're working together and supporting you to do your best in that class. And a huge part of the work of a lab faculty is executive functioning support. So one of the biggest things that we do is help students figure out how are we going to manage all of this, right? Meaning both their schoolwork and also their life. We talk about everything together, and that's really what the PLP is. It's finding the time to do everything you need to do in order to keep the rest unified. There are some differences in the lab faculty role from that of the advisor. Student internships are usually either job embedded, so the job that they already have is their internship, or they're doing it with a member of the community that has sort of specialized knowledge. It's not the same structure as a high school internship. In Providence, that means sort of the twice a day they're going in and they're spending time with their mentor doing specific outcomes. The internship is either already part of the work they're doing, or it's something that the student and the mentor work out on their own and they figure out times to meet. Classes from the instructional faculty actually usually help students develop their project work when it's a major requirement. So some of the classes they've taken are called Introduction to Organizational Leadership and Change. That's really about what does it mean to be a leader and how do you make change? That's what the class is all about. Writing for change. How do you write a proposal when you need to access resources to make the change? And my favorite is called Reframing Failure. That's a great way to take and look at past mistakes or things where things have gone wrong for you and changing your lens on it so that it's all about learning from those mistakes and moving forward and making those failures, reclaiming them and making them successes. There's also other electives which just help with life skills. One of my favorites right now is called Mindfulness and Wellbeing, or some classes are like creative writing classes. So the classes from instructional faculty cover a wide gamut of different things, but usually they're helping the students move forward in the attainment of their degree. The student experience I found is a little bit different. In high school, even when students come to a choice school, you know, the law still requires them to go to a school. So there can sometimes be among adolescents a little bit of resistance. College students have made the choice to go back because they want that degree. They value the degree. And even though College Unbound works really hard to be the most affordable, as well as the most dynamic, also the most affordable option, they also still take out money in order to go back to it. So the investment that the students come in with is different, and it's sort of a higher level in the college than you'll sometimes find with some of those hard to reach high school students. When I'm coaching a college student through some of their difficulties, it's usually a lack of confidence in their ability, not so much lack of motivation. And that's a different series of conversations and a different way that you work with them in order to address that particular issue. I've also found that as an advisor, we're helping to connect them to resources that the students as adults are more connected to their community already. So it's less heavy lifting. A lot of times it's just a matter of asking the right questions, and then students can come up with the community resources that they need to connect with. They can do that on their own. Sometimes with high schoolers, they have no idea what they want, and you have to do a lot of the kind of searching for them because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know yet. So that's been a little bit different at the college level. One thing that I've noticed as well too is that the differences in how the students talk to you. One example of that is literally at the end of every class and at the end of every one-on-one meeting, students say, thank you. Thank you for that lesson. Thank you for helping me with this issue I was having. And, you know, we don't do it for the gratitude and the recognition, but it shows you a difference between the level of investment on an adult versus that of a high school student. The high schoolers will sometimes make you wait 4 years before they give you something like that, right? And so it's, you know, I am still working at the Met Center, so I have that job full-time during the day. It's high school by day and college by night. So I kind of call this my my superhero job. It's what I do when I don the cape and go out into the world in the evening. And what that means for me is I have very, very full days for sure, but they're also very rewarding days. And I really do love being in the college and working with adults who so much want that degree because they know exactly what it means for them. And they're so eager to be working and to be, just to accept the kind of help that they need and to keep progressing and moving forward. And so that's why I got involved with CU and why I love it. And I mentioned earlier being inspired by Dennis talking about CU at his PD days. And I decided that I wanted that for myself. So I came to a few cohort meetings. I sat in and observed what it looks like. I met a few faculty members. I did a few interviews and then decided that I wanted to make this, this addition to my professional life. And when I was ready, I made a Facebook post to try to connect with some alumni and feel, you know, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this. You may want to come back as well too. The first message I got back was from Odelia Di Gouveia. It was almost instant. I want to say it was maybe a half an hour between the original post and her saying, yes, I want this. And Odelia I had been her teacher in high school for her senior year in 2006, 2007. Many of you know Sun Sam. Sun was her original advisor. Many of you know Charlie Plant. Charlie Plant was her original principal. And then when Charlie moved on, Sun took over the principalship, and her advisory had one more year left to go, so I took over for her senior year. And everybody told me the one student that's going to give you the hardest time is Odelia Di Gouveia. You better watch out for her. Well, obviously the story has a happy ending because I can now introduce to you, and I am pleased to now introduce to you, my current college student, almost at the end of her journey there, Odelia Di Gouveia.
Woohoo! Hi, everyone. My name is Odelia Di Gouveia, and I am a current College Unbound student. I wanted to, hi everybody. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Sun. I wanted to share with everyone my education journey and how I arrived at College Unbound. So I'll start with my senior year. My senior year, I was at the Arc of Blackstone Valley, which is an organization that provides support for Rhode Island residents with developmental disabilities. My internship responsibilities was to develop a curriculum and help give presentations on fetal alcohol syndrome in schools. My project was to organize a walk to raise awareness on fetal alcohol syndrome. During my senior year, I was in foster care. And after high school, After I graduated in 2007, I transitioned into a program to begin living on my own. There were supports, but I was learning how to manage life on my own. My first attempt in college, right after high school, was at Rhode Island College, one of our state colleges. And I only lasted one day. I'll tell you how. I walked into class. It was the first day of school, and I walked into this big auditorium, and it was filled with hundreds of kids. And I walked out. I said, no, thank you. It's not for me. It overwhelmed me. That experience delayed my entry into college. I decided to focus on working and living on my own. I continued working at a series of jobs like Dunkin' Donuts, cafes, those sort of jobs, but it wasn't leading me anywhere. After 2 years, I aged out of that transitional living program that I was in, and I decided it was time to go back to school. I then enrolled in Fitchburg State College, which is now a university in Massachusetts. And there, I treated it like a party. I didn't do well in my classes, and I only lasted one semester. So one day at Rick, one semester at Fitchburg. I came back to Rhode Island and began going to CCRI, which is a local community college in Rhode Island. At that point, I began to mature. I had a campus job as an aide in the computer lab, and then I graduated in 2011 with my associate's degree. After that, I decided as a woman that I wanted to begin a family, so I became pregnant with my son. While I was actually pregnant, I went to an orientation at College Unbound. But at that moment, I felt like it was too much to take on, so I left it alone. In 2016, I came back, and I began my journey with College Unbound. It was great because it wasn't intimidating. The students were my age. Unfortunately, I had a hiccup with financial aid. So with that hiccup, and then having at that moment my first corporate office job and managing my family, I let the hiccup sort of steer me away from school. So I took a year off. One day I was on Facebook, and I saw a post from Scott Weber, and he had mentioned that he wanted to start his own cohort at College Unbound. I felt like this was my opportunity, and I couldn't let it pass me. Everything was just saying, Odelia, you have to do it, and do it now. So I messaged him, and of course he said yes. So now I am one semester away from graduating. My project is to increase awareness and practice of self-care through social media. I wanted to share that the reason I continued to come back to College Unbound was because it was a very supportive environment. It felt like a family, like the doors were always opened. Scott, going back to you, you mentioned that I was a pain in the butt. What did you mean by that?
And all the people that know her are allowed to talk now. Son, Charlie, let's have a little conversation.
Odelia, you were an angel.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Thank you, Charlie.
Son, you were the one that said, Charlie, watch her. What do you think? What do you remember?
Man, listen, her and her squad in 9th grade year, her and her friends. Look, listen, I'm bald now, right? There was a reason why I lost all my hair, because these 3 girls in my advisory, they were incredible in their own ways, but they they just got into a lot of stuff, but I'll leave that alone. But Odelia, just like Charlie said, is one of the sweetest human beings that I've ever met. And I guess I was asked to speak about this, but where I saw that transition. So she was a typical teenager, you know, trying to find themselves, trying to love themselves, and trying to really just, you know, grow up in the world. And so there was a lot of good decisions, some bad decisions. So it wasn't anything atypical of a teenager. But where I saw the transition happen was sophomore year, and this is during our gateway year. For those folks that don't know big picture, we split up our schools into junior institute and senior institute, right? So junior institute is 9th and 10th grade, and the senior institute is 11th and 12th grade. Gateway year is a very, very definitive year because it's sort of like a rites of passage. So it's all our sophomores saying, I'm ready now to take on this extra level of leadership, responsibility, et cetera. So this was, her internship was with Miss Leah Lockwood, I should say Dr. Leah Lockwood, our social worker at the time. And this is where she really began exploring young women empowerment and like really, really talking about teen issues that were really important to her. Why? Because that's everything that she was consumed in, you know, with her own personal stuff, with friends or whatnot. But I saw that she was very, very interested in particularly working with self-image for young ladies in the lower schools. Like, you know what I mean? She even led a youth, a women's group, like even at our school. So she was always, always passionate about that. And that internship was, for me, sort of just the beginning of Odelia really, really looking at herself and loving herself and seeing the potential that we always saw. But that was there. So I was asked to speak about that. I have a million more stories about Odelia, but if you see that smile now, that smile is the same smile at 13 years old. She had a very, very energetic, contagious energy about her, and she's kept that her entire life, as you can see by the way that she smiles it. But
you're making me cry.
Odelia, I mean it. Love you, honey. I'm just so happy to be here to hear your story, to know personally where you came from, and to see your story right now. It's just incredible. I'm about to cry.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it there.
If I can just interrupt for a second, a great thing that I just heard from Sun, talking about how she started to do self-investigation and to really connect all of her work to the stuff that she was going through. And that's sort of continuing right now, because as we heard, as a college senior about to graduate, right, her whole thing is about distilling to other people what she's learned about self-care, right, and taking care of herself, and making that widely available to other people. Yeah. One of the things too, the thing that she did the most in high school was she would never do anything unless I could identify exactly why she had to do it, right? She would say, tell me why I need to do this. And I had to learn quick, I better have a good answer, because if I didn't, she wasn't going to do it, right? Period. And one of the cool things is, I actually realized reflecting on this, that she still will ask me that now as a college student, but the tone is totally different. It's about wanting to understand the purpose of the activity so she can do the best job at it. It's not, any of you knows high schoolers, that question is usually a challenge, right, when it's asked by a high schooler. And it's not now. It's really about her diving as deep as she can and wanting to get the most out of anything that we're doing together. So that also shows you a little bit of the difference between high school age and college age.
Yeah. So I want to open it up for a second for anybody else that wants to ask Odelia a question. I mean, it's the kind of thing, when we started College Unbound, it wasn't to take Met students that would eventually drop out and looking for a place. When I saw the data that if a student is poor, regardless of what color they are, and they graduate high school and start college, 89% drop out. So there's something very sick about that that tells me that's not the student, that's the institution. And so when we started talking, we said we can reverse that. We can graduate 89% and only have 11% drop out. And that's what happened, and that's what we've done. And actually, for the first bunches of years, we didn't have any Met students until we started getting some former Met advisors. So what's exciting is at graduation, we always say, you're always a Met student. Doesn't matter. You got to get older than me before you're not a Met student. So it's very rewarding because all your kids in your school or people you know, it's so easy to get lost and not come back. And so this is how do we keep supporting through life. So somebody asked Odelia a question. Somebody who doesn't know her as well as we do. Da 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 da.
Delia, how's your son?
He's well. He's 6 years old.
Wow.
He's going to summer camp. Thank you for asking.
Oh, that's wonderful, Odelia. That's the true benefit of your, keep pushing is that, being such a tremendous parent, having a good life for your kid.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to ask her anything about her development or about the college or?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Odelia, whenever you were asking why should I do this in high school, what answers really, what kind of answers were really most powerful for you?
The kind of answers that were most powerful to me was Scott, not necessarily the answer, but how he answered me. He would take a minute and kind of come down to my level and really understand that I was trying to understand why, not so much as trying to, put up a fight with him.
Great. So it's the how it's presented rather than the answer. Good question.
Yes. So
somebody else have one?
So even though he said that you asked the question differently now that you're in college, you're really not. It just sounds different to his ears.
Scott is kind.
I think she's pretending she didn't have an attitude back then, Anyone else want to ask her anything?
I've got
about
one.
College? Yep.
It's not really a question, it's more of a reflection, but real fast. Hey, Penny, future school representing. Hey, Odelia, I just kind of wanted to reflect back to you something that a message that I was hearing. I think a lot of kids, when stuff happens to them, they're very reactive and they're like, man, that happened and that sucks and my life sucks. But what I heard from you, and it's really inspiring and I just want to acknowledge it, is a real ownership and a proactive stance to the challenges that you faced. I just want to give you mad props for that, girl. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you, Allison.
She is what we mean by a lifelong learner. Absolutely. She embodies it.
Anybody want to give her shit or all nice?
Those high school questions because she invited me to her graduation party. So somehow I did a good job answering those questions.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Well, at the beginning, I talked about we were going to do this at my cabin. That's now a retreat center, going to be offered for everybody. We have a little board of, not a little board, but a board of people who are in their 30s, so can carry it on. As I said, Carlos, myself, Elliot, and Andrew went up there. So we have a couple pictures of the ride up there. I told people we'd have a barbecue. It's a little barbecue. So we'll take the little break and show the slide. There's the cabin. There's the view. You could be there. Carlos named it Doc's Rock, or the Rock. I forget what it stands for, but there's your barbecue. There's your view. There might even be a video of driving up. I got the salmon out for people who are vegetarians and the carrots, so we're ready to go. Here's the drive up. I'll leave my Jeep there eventually. I think it's a video if it will get going.
It's not a video.
It's not a video, but it's a mile up the road. So I just wanted to share that. That's where I wanted to do this from. Thank you, Carla. So now we're going to move to the action part. And the action part is, one, besides the cohort that is in the particular city. Right now, we're just in Providence that Scott was talking about. And we built this thing for adults. So they're busy. Odelia can't be out every night. So it's one night a week, 3 hours. When she arrives, there's dinner waiting for her right there for everybody. We all have dinner together, 100 people last year. There's daycare down the street. They can drop their kid off at daycare, or if the kid's older, they can bring to class. So we have kids and there. So those were two things we were told that really get in the way. And then they sit with their group for 3 hours. And when people ask for the secret sauce, it's not only that the project's student driven, okay, but it's that the cohort, you know, if Odelia wants to drop out, she says, I'm having trouble working, taking care of my son. The person next to her say, I got 4 kids at home, chill, you better stay in. Or people go to a person's house and say, come on. Or this one student, people are having trouble, they organize like a study hall on Saturday. So it's that group that keep everyone graduating, and why we have around 80% people graduating, rather than the college right next to us that has, they're so proud they got their 2-year graduation rate up to 14%. So, and these are people who've left school over and over again. So it's been an exciting process, and we need people. Elliot Washer is teaching a course this year from California on helping him develop his, the health app that he's doing, and people will sign up. So I'm going to turn it to Adam Bush, who's the provost.
Talk about health.
What are you mumbling about?
I said, Odelia can sign up.
Yeah, Odelia, you should sign up. You should be the first person.
That's right.
And Adam's been the co-founder with me here 10, 12 years ago, and is now the provost, and put on a very pretty shirt for this day. And I thought we'd start with just thinking if any of you want to teach a course, and then we're going to go to who wants College Unbound in your city. Orlando already said, come to me. I know we're coming to Reno. We've been talking about that for a long time. So Adam, take it away.
All right. I mean, I think also before the time is up, even if we didn't get a tour of Dennis's cabin up the hill, he should be doing a tour of his apartment. Maybe move his iPad around a little bit and see what's there. So, you know, we're College Unbound is becoming more and more official as an institution in like the accreditor side of things. And it's this process where like they want you to look more and more like a peer institution, like everyone else. We don't want to look like everyone else. We want to make sure our curriculum and our practices are true to who we are, certainly our core and birth and incubation and love of and within big picture, and everything that we're doing in working with adult learners for these past years. And so it's not just a kind of quick dry, what's a class and a plug-in, and that's a thing, just like any adjunct faculty would do at another college. But really trying to think about, this is a team, you guys are all on this call of folks who know and love big picture. What are the courses, what are the tools, what are the toolkits and lenses that you feel like your alumni, your current students, the parents of your students would love to sort of dive into? So keep that in mind. I want to do just a quick 2-second, like our framing of our curriculum. You know, Scott talked about being the lab faculty for Odelia. That's the main layer of everyone at College Unbound. You're part of a cohort with a semester-long lab that meets every semester. I really think about it as I'm describing to someone who's not big picture and so wouldn't get the cohort stuff. It's sort of like this mishmash of high school homeroom meets academic advising meets your dissertation committee. It's all those things kind of combined, and you stay together like you would a cohort all your years of college. At College Unbound, you're coming in, though, with different amounts of credit. So Odelia coming in with whatever is 30 credits from past college experience might be in a cohort with someone who's 90 credits and is only there for a year. So you're working with folks, but you're on different timelines, perhaps. Layered on top of the lab, we have courses that are 8-week, 2-month deep dives into content, into practices, or into experiences. And so we bring in instructional faculty for that. There's instructional faculty get year-long contracts and start teaching classes every term. And then layered on top of that, we call it our Learning in Public program. It's how do we accredit and value things that would be extracurricular everywhere else? And the Met, of course, and big picture schools, of course, do this naturally in a high school curriculum. Thinking about the full student, what they're doing in the world counts and moves them towards their degree. In college, as we've been becoming more and more like other colleges, we want to make sure that we are valuing the learning in the world. We got to put it in different buckets sometimes. And so we think about how do we help a student document learning that they've done before they enter in. Also, when someone's organizing a march or presenting at city council or working on being a better parent or kid or taking care of their elderly grandparents and they're living with them or doing frontline work, how do they frame that as learning experiences that then get accredited? And so we have these three layers: the lab, the courses, and the engaged learning. And so they all speak to each other. What we're excited, what Dennis and I want to bring to this group now is what are the courses, what are the interventions that you all have at your tips of your fingers that you'd like to bring into it with us?
Yeah. Elliot, can you say a thing or two about the course you're going to teach? I guess he left and put.
Elliot's gone.
All right. So Elliot's working on a health app to help people check how they're eating, very simply, how they're exercising, and he's going to use the students as kind of the people that are testing it and figuring it out. And I think, Adam, do you think it's best to break into small groups now? And why don't we do that for 10 minutes?
Sure.
And Elliot also taught me, he used this sentence, we're getting online to get offline. So we're not just trying to learn some content. We're trying to learn, I'll repeat what Adam said, what's a lens to help you on your project? What's a tool to help you on your project? So think about that a little bit when you go in. Elliot, I just called on you, but we
had to go get a piece of watermelon.
We went to get watermelon. Do you want to say a little, Elliot, what your course is going to be like?
You got some celery.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully we get a bunch of students. Right now we got funding to develop a well-being and wellness app and website. And it's going to take us about a year to do it. And of course, we're going to design it with our students from 9 schools so far that have signed up. And students will be developing both of these sites. And I wanted to develop it also for college. And we have a partnership with a really incredible organization called the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which is like us in a parallel track in the health and medical field. They have 40 medical colleges are involved. And they're more about prevention than intervention. More about not cutting you open and giving you pills, but you taking care and having the agency to take care of your own health, as well as changing policies, because it's not just you taking care of stuff, it's policy changes that are needed in the communities that we are all in to make sure and to ensure that delivery systems for health are there. So at the College Unbound, I hope to get 8, 10, 12 students who work with me on critiquing the website and the app for older students. Well, we believe that as students graduate high school from our schools and schools beyond our schools, that the app will serve as a way to manage your own health around the 6 measures that gold standard, research-based, medically proven measures around exercise, sleep, eating well, healthy relationships, avoidance of abusive substances. And so that's the course. It's real, real life, real world, and that's it. I know, Dennis, you want to, go ahead. I talk too much there, huh?
You see my hand, ready to move on.
I saw you. You were ready to go, man. I know that.
Thank you, Elliot.
No problem.
So, Carla, can you break us into groups of 3 or 4 and people spend 10 minutes and your job is each of you are going to come up with a course that you think is important because it teaches a way to think about something or a skill. So does that describe it okay, Adam?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's, like a 2-month deep dive into X to help a student move their own project, work, heart, commitment forward.
Yeah, and we have teachers all around the country now. So, Carla, are you there to break people into a group for, all right, they say break in a group, and we'll go 12 minutes, and then we'll come back and figure out how to come to your city, all right? Has something. Adam's the provost. He'll sign you up. It's a real
That's it. You want a class?
position.
That's it. You're You could be hired right after this.
If you got a good idea, you got a job, man.
No one's going to talk.
Could you?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I figure if I go first, I get the first stab at answers, and then it won't be so hard. So one of the things that we talked about was just a class on, and I don't remember how we worded it in the end, but a class that dealt with self-advocacy, both in the school system and in like social services networks, because a lot of times those things go hand in hand.
Beautiful. Hired. Next. No, I'm just kidding. He does it. No, but that's great. And we try to do that in the group, but having that concrete, like the reframing failure, is perfect, Barbara.
I was gonna say, we talked about two bigger things in our group, and we're both counselors, the two outsiders, and so we said, one huge piece is helping that work-life balance, and explaining to people how their life circumstance plays into their role as a student and their role as somebody in the workforce. And then we also talked about how a lot of the times in young families, maybe when there's a mom that's focused on with the kid, we're not really focusing on the dad and providing services for that dad who also is struggling with raising a kid, and providing those supports for them too.
Great. Very good. Couple
Dennis.
more.
Hey, Dennis.
Well, you're still a student. What the heck? Just kidding. Go, Delia.
You mentioned reframing failure. In my group, I discussed my experience with the reframing failure class I took last semester. And I explained how it was good because it not only gave me it not only helped me academically, but personally as well. Like, for instance, one thing that we did daily was journal and practice a couple minutes of gratitude, and those are still things I utilize.
Beautiful. Yep.
Yeah, and to go on Adelia's thing, she was talking about the failure course, the reframing failure. It made me think of something that I talk to my students about a lot, which is our mind are not always our friend. Our mind is not always our friend. And the idea with that would be that you recognize the schema or the things that you have that put obstacles in your own way because of who you are and where you come from, and just the actual teaching of that, not just as a counseling course, but as an understanding of how the mind works and understand the things that get in our way of being successful our own way. And so kind of just recognizing how your own things in your own head sometimes make us limited. We don't realize what our potential is, that kind of thing. I thought a course like that might be interesting.
Right. And all those ideas are more skills, way of thinking, rather than memorizing stuff. So maybe one more, and then we'll get on to the big ask.
Well, I'll share from our group. We talked about two things.
You got to talk a lot louder.
Can you hear me?
Barely. Get closer.
Hear me? Oh my gosh.
When you got close, we could hear you.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
All right, we talked about two things, communication and resources. We said that this day and age, a lot of our students are not privy to checking their emails and understanding the importance of no response is a response. And then the second thing we talked about are the resources within the high school before they transition to college, having an open dialogue and open resources to expose students to knowing that they can go to college debt free, letting them know all the resources, the scholarships, so that they won't be fearful of going to college and knowing that they have to take loans and things of that nature. Just
Yeah.
having more resources for the students before they get into the real world.
Beautiful. All right. One of the other things we're doing, a couple of the things, most of our cities do not have very diverse teaching staffs. So in Providence, 85% of our kids in the schools are of color. 90% of the teachers are white, and the teacher assistants, 85% are of color. And so we just started a program to help teacher assistants be the teachers, okay? And it's kind of very exciting because they are the community members. We also have, and this is why this can go anywhere, this leads up to the next question. We teach inside the prison. And then when people step out of the prison, we have a gateway class. Every Monday night, this group gets together, transitions them back, and then they help get their degree. Because there are a lot of people that work in the prison, but then when the people get out, they don't have housing or don't have something else and let their college go. So let me frame the big question, then Adam will frame the question within there. So like Elliot and I did with the Met, we established the Met. Luckily, we got a lot of bucks saying, I love this school from the Gates Foundation, put it all around, okay? We're trying to do that with College Unbound. We're getting it so we understand what we're doing, and now we're ready to start spreading it to other cities. You know, Taylor and I have talked. What happens at the Met is at 5 o'clock, the kids go home. At 5:30, the adults come in. So it's pretty inexpensive. You pay rent to the school. You bring in the professors, and we rock. And we get teachers like Scott who'd work in the program. So we're looking for either in your school or in your community, who wants College Unbound? This is, we're looking at this as the beginning of our scaling up. So we're going to go in small groups in a minute, and Adam has a question for you to follow. So when you're thinking about this.
I do?
Yes, it's the question you told me, Adam, about what do they think their students need?
Yeah, that's right. So, right, if we're starting these really college pods all around the country, you've all been working with young people and their parents and their extended communities. What are the things that don't right now exist in the post-secondary sphere that need to be there so that folks can be successful?
Yeah. So, you know, we have classes inside the hospital. The nurses that want to continue on, come finish their work, come to a class. You have your own students, your own kids, what did they miss? Or students. So Carla, why don't we take a good, 12:40? Why don't we go to 12:50, 10 minutes, just come up with some ideas, put on the chat if you say, I want to come to Orlando, I want to come to Reno, and get some ideas following Adam's question. Small groups, here we go. See you in 10 minutes, 11 minutes.
Hello.
Elliot.
Charlie.
Yeah, we came up with wayfinders.
No kidding.
Yep, no kidding.
No joke.
No joke.
Let's give some just ideas. Marty in my group kind of jumped the gun. He said tomorrow he's going to talk to his group. I said, wait a minute, we ain't ready yet, man. But that's what I like. Lauren, talk about your idea, your open doors for a second.
Oh, we have these programs in Washington State that are, the student outcomes are awful, tragic. And they don't have the same regulations around certification, stuff like that, which I think there could be an opportunity there they're for students that districts push out. It could be a bridge to college, right, like in that type of a program. And just, and they don't have the same laws or policies around them.
That's great. Other ideas for who wants college unbound in your city? Say yes and talk about it. Korea, are we
when's
coming
it coming?
to Korea?
When's it coming? I want it in the city. When's it coming?
Well, I guess I count as towards Marty, but I think it would work great for us. And in our group, we purely talked about how like the kids need a different path to take, and sometimes the paths that they know in their brain are not maybe the best paths for them to take, and there's alternative ways for them to learn, and different jobs they can get and different ways they can get them. So I think it would be awesome.
Very cool. Son.
Doc, I want to add, I mean, well, first of all, we felt so fortunate because we had Odelia in our group and she shared a little bit. But what was really powerful to me is this marriage of academic development and personal development that she talked about. So her real coursework is about her self-development as a human being, but she's getting credit and validated through that. So that marriage, it just works together so much, and she's able to see it. She actually spoke to it very eloquently that academically I'm developing and personally I'm really evolving as a human being and taking care of myself. So both of those things are like hitting on all pistons, and I was just so proud when she said that. So that's what really higher ed should be about, you know?
Yeah, that's the goal. Yes, Odelia, you can graduate now. Let's get another person or two. And then Adam, you have any thoughts?
There was a question that came up, and I'm wondering, Scott mentioned that one of you guys might be able to handle it. I guess I'm focused more on the when you go to college, an accredited college, you come out with a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts or something of that nature. Now, the college, from what I understand of the discussion so far, College Unbound doesn't really offer that particular instruction. There's no skills that like carpentry or mathematics that are offered at this level, but you're working towards pushing yourself forward within your job, and then when you get to the point where you feel that your skills have been developed enough, you can challenge at a university to get the college credit to work that bachelor's. I'm not seeing the connection. I guess it almost looks like it's like I mentioned in our discussion. Looks like a stepping stone between high school and college. They're not ready to go to college, so they got a college inbound. They get more prepared for themselves, and then they can go to a standard college.
No, it's not that at all. We're redefining what college is. Adam, you want to say a word about that? So it's redefining. They get a bachelor's degree, they have mathematics, but it's redefining, it's making it important. Adam, you want to say a word?
I'll echo what Sun said that Odelia said. It's about recognizing the deep learning within personal and professional growth and development, and connection to larger community and social change. So it's a bachelor's degree born out of that. We have an umbrella major called Organizational Leadership and Change that, frankly, we made up to sound very official, to do the work it had to do so that people's projects could fit under any umbrella and they could develop the path they needed to put their work into action. It's a bachelor's degree that has access to financial aid, and that's accredited or about to be accredited.
When I left high school, I went to the large university in our area, and I was overwhelmed. I was there for one semester, and I was thrown out. Now, I just wasn't prepared. I was high 90s in high school. The academics wasn't a problem for me. I was just overwhelmed by 700 people in the classroom, and just, you know, the whole ball of wax. Unlimited freedom, and I was working too.
Yeah.
Took a number of years before I got back. This was in engineering. Now, if I wanted, could I go to college unbound if that was my situation and develop I have a degree in aerospace engineering now. Would I be able to go to college unbound and get that degree?
Yeah, as Adam said. Adam, you want to answer, and then we'll move on?
So we're a bachelor's degree, Bachelor of Arts in Org Leadership and Change. So someone who doesn't have that degree can pursue it with us. You know, we broadly define it when we started as a degree completion college. So we were looking for folks who had 9 credits or more and had past college experience. We now have shifted that really to say we're a college for the adult student, however that adult student defines themselves. As someone who's straight out of high school but has a kid, is a returning vet, is formerly incarcerated, or really is a type of thinker that doesn't want to be in a traditional, like Adelia going to Rhode Island College and being like, whoa, that's not for me. We want someone to choose to be here because it's a school built for their personality, their learning style, and their connection to community.
Yeah, and we can talk more offline because you can have we have people having a concentration in technology and are getting certificates at the same time they're getting this bachelor degree. The reality is, besides some very specific things that need a degree in a specific area, these people, I think our number was like 86%, once they got a degree, got a better job, more money, or moved up in their job. And that's one of the things we're doing, helping people have a better life, and both in job and their work. So I want to kind of end and thank people. This was exciting. This is the first time we did a in-depth piece for College Unbound, coming out of big picture. And I'm hoping in the next couple of years that we end up in your city, you know. And Marty, if you're at that meeting tomorrow, let's go. And Elliot, if you can find anybody good in San Diego.
I did.
Us. Oh yeah, that's you.
I did.
So Adelia, you will end this meeting. Is there anything you have to say about the experience today, or the wise student telling us something? And that will be it. How about that for pressure?
This experience has definitely given me some confidence, and I appreciate it.
Great. And we have something called the Big 10 skills that are all those things like communication and resilience. And we told her this helps her portfolio on communication. So she's actually getting credit for it. So thank you all. You can email us, talk to us if you have an interest. Yes, we can take over the whole of Korea if you want. Honey, do you know our books translate in Korean? Do you know that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it.
Very good. All right, everybody. Peace, love.
Thank you, Doc.
Take care. Thanks, son. Thanks, everybody.